Well, let's get you now the details which are coming in on another important story that's unfolding at the line of actual control between India and China in Ladakh region. There is intense standoff between the two neighbors in that area for a few days now. Top commanders of the Indian Army, we are given to believe, will carry out a review of this tense standoff between Indian and Chinese troops in several areas of Eastern Ladakh at a 3-day conference which is going to begin today. The troops from the two countries are locked in an eyeball-to-eyeball face-off in Pangong So, Galwan Valley, Demchok and Daulat Beg Oldi. Now, remember, this face-off is nothing new. The understanding of the two countries of the line of actual control is also different from each other. But we are seeing a lot more aggression from the Chinese side this time around. Let's go across to our consulting editor, Maruf Raza, who's joining us on the broadcast. Maruf, good morning. First of all, if you can help us understand how serious is the situation right now? How many areas are at the moment affected along the line of actual control with the Chinese aggression?
You see, the situation is serious, and the Chinese want to project it as serious because the Chinese always use military muscle to get a diplomatic point across, particularly in the case of India and South China Sea, and to some extent against Japan and its other East Asian neighbors like Taiwan. In this case, we go back. I mean, you need to get a bit of an understanding of how history has unfolded. Ever since our independence, China, which became a Republic of China, as they call themselves, from 49, has laid claim on these areas, and they continue to encroach on these areas in the 50s. Pandit Nehru's government ignored those encroachments, assuming that sweet talk with China will get them to accept the Indian position. The Indian position is based on an agreement that was done in the British times, which was called the Shimla Agreement of 1914. And under that agreement, two parts of the India-Tibet boundary was marked out. One was the boundary from where they are right now, the standoff is taking place, that is general area Ladakh up to Nepal. And the second was beyond Nepal, that is Sikkim, Bhutan, and up to Myanmar, which is called the McMahon line. The entire boundary is not the McMahon line. Now, the McMahon line was acceptable even to the Chinese representative, but the Chinese never really gave in to India's demands on the Aksai Chin region. So therefore, when Pandit Nehru tried all his tricks, including the Panchsheel Agreement of 54, etc., China kept moving forward. And it was India's final decision to stop Chinese encroachment that led to the 62 conflict. But the point to understand is China needs this area perhaps a lot more than India does, because they made a highway connecting Xinjiang to Tibet through Kashgar and Lhasa. So they have a lot of investments there in terms of mineral resources, nuclear resources, and water resources.
But whenever India starts any infrastructure-related work on their side of line of actual control, China always has serious objections to it, and we see a sudden, change in attitude at the line of actual control with more aggression. Maruf, I'm going to request you to stay with me. I want to bring in our editor, Internal Security, Nikunj Garg, and National Affairs editor, Srinjoy Chaudhary as well, on the discussion. Nikunj, first, if you can tell us about the government's view of the current situation at the line of actual control. I'm sure this matter will have to be taken up at several levels, militarily as well as diplomatically. At what stage are we in government's assessment of the situation?
Well, Preeti, the government is very clear. Unlike in the instances in the past, particularly during the UPA regime, this government is certainly not going to buckle under the Chinese pressure. Chinese, as I've been saying, that facing increasing flack from the United States of America and increasing scrutiny from the rest of the world community about their handling of the coronavirus pandemic, have generally been building pressure on the traditional pain points where they think that they can create a kind of atmospherics, particularly against countries like India, whom they want to bully on the international diplomatic forum to side with their viewpoint rather than the neutral multilateral point of view. Have always traditionally tried these tricks. Government of India is seized of the matter, and at the highest level, the consensus is that whatever the Chinese attempts may be, India will face this crisis resolutely the Indian will to face the Chinese attempts of aggression or attempted aggression will certainly now not be browbeaten by any kind of Chinese build-up. So that message is very clear from the political diplomatic complex of the country.
Okay, Srinjoy, if I can bring you in now, as far as military options are concerned, at the moment we're given to believe that top commanders of the army will carry out a review and a 3-day conference is beginning today. Can you give us more details on that? Okay, I think we just lost that link with Srinjoy Chaudhary. We will try. Okay, he is back with us now. Srinjoy, I just wanted you to explain to us the options that the military, that the Indian Army is weighing, and I believe there is going to be a 3-day conference beginning today. What are the details on that front?
Well, there is a commanders conference. This was planned, of course, a while ago. Then it was postponed because of COVID. Now it's today and tomorrow. And today, the commanders concerned, in this case, particularly the Northern Army commander, will speak about the situation in Ladakh. We also know that perhaps the DGMO, the Director General of Military Operations, will also speak about this sometime in the morning. The chief will also put in his views. That apart, it's very important to know that, yes, there are enough troops in Ladakh. The 3 division, once, which was a very small unit which dealt with a much larger area, is now concentrated in the Ladakh area. Things like artillery, tanks over the years have been moved into the area. But that said, there are about 5,000 troops, several thousand troops across facing each other, and that is expected to continue for a while. The important thing is there are enough troops. The other the positive, if you can call it that, compared with Doklam, is the fact that while Doklam took place in an area which was very strategically important for India, because it was close to the area, Chicken's Neck, which separated the northeast from the Indian heartland. This is in northeastern Ladakh, which, while certainly Indian territory, and India will not like any transgressions, any intrusions, is not so critically important. So Doklam also, the other point that has to be
and Maruf
said,
mentioned the same point, that it's rather more important for China. Srinjoy, I'm going to just request you to stay with me for a bit. I want to bring in Maruf once again here. Maruf, now we know that we have a problem at hand. Efforts will be directed towards handling that problem. What is the best solution that can be implemented at this point in time? There are discussions about dealing with it at a local level, then diplomatic level. Obviously, military option is not something that's going to be discussed just yet.
You see, Preeti, the first and most important option for India is not to back off. We are very much in territory that we have always maintained is ours. It is part of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, now divided into 2 parts, Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So technically, legally, this is our territory. And China has a knack of using history to suit its agenda whenever it wants to put its point across. But this is an area which has never been vacated by us. We held on to it at the cost of many lives also in 1962. China made no real gains in those areas. The second thing is the Army Commanders and Military Commanders Conference that is taking place, and the Prime Minister, I'm sure, will attend. This is, as Srinjoy brought out, this is planned well in advance. This matter about the Chinese will feature pretty high on the agenda, but don't expect the whole conference to be devoted to the Chinese, because there are a lot of standard operating procedures that are in place and that will begin to unfold. And the third point is that the Northern Army Commander...
All right, Maruf, that's all the time Okay, finish that. Sure. Okay, Maruf, I'm sorry, I'm completely running out of time. Thanks very much for getting us your insight on this, and also thanks to Srinjoy and Nikunj for their inputs on these developments there at the line of actual control. We'll track more later. For the moment, we're getting some breaking inputs coming in.